Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Young and the Restless channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The storm begins quietly, almost deceptively so, as tensions simmer beneath the polished surface of Genoa City, waiting for the perfect moment to erupt. At the center of it all stands Billy Abbott, unknowingly drifting toward a confrontation that will shake the fragile balance he's been trying so hard to maintain. What he doesn't yet fully grasp is that the chaos closing in around him has been carefully engineered, piece by piece, by Victor Newman's powerful new AI program, a system capable of manufacturing evidence so convincing it blurs the line between truth and deception. Names like Phyllis Summers and Kane Ashby are already tangled in the web, but Billy's own involvement is what will soon ignite the most explosive consequences. And standing just on the edge of this unraveling truth is Victoria Newman, watching it all unfold with a chilling willingness to let events take their course. Though she attempts to downplay Billy's role at first, brushing it aside as something manageable, there's an unmistakable shift in her tone when Christine Blair Romalotti warns her just how messy things could become. Instead of pulling back, Victoria makes a quiet, calculated decision, one that suggests she's prepared to let Billy fall if it comes to that. As the days inch forward, the tension tightens like a noose, and the fallout begins to take shape in ways no one can ignore. Kane Ashby's looming arrest, teased in the week's preview, casts a long shadow over everything, signaling that this is no longer a hypothetical threat, but a very real and immediate danger. It doesn't take much imagination to see how easily Billy could be next, how quickly the walls could close in around him. The image is almost unbearable. Billy, caught off guard, handcuffs snapping shut around his wrists while Sally Spectra looks on, her world crumbling in real time. For Sally, this isn't just another crisis. It's the shattering of a future she's only just begun to believe in. Their engagement, once filled with hope and promise, suddenly feels fragile, like glass about to break under pressure. And for Billy, the stakes couldn't be higher. Because beyond the fear and anger lies something even more profound. His deep commitment to Sally and the new life they're about to bring into the world together. That promise, that vision of standing beside Sally through every moment of their journey into parenthood, now hangs by a thread. Billy had vowed to be there for her, to be present, steady, and dependable in a way he hadn't always managed in the past. But how can he keep that promise if prison bars stand between him and the life he's trying to build? The thought alone is enough to ignite a firestorm within him, a surge of fury that grows stronger the closer he gets to the truth. And when he finally realizes that Victoria may have played a role in setting this entire disaster into motion, that fury will have a clear target. This isn't just about legal trouble anymore, it's personal, deeply and painfully so. Because Victoria isn't just anyone, she's the mother of his children, the woman he once loved with everything he had, someone he trusted even after everything they've been through. Their past conflicts, like the recent argument over sending Johnny Abbott and Katie Abbott back to boarding school, suddenly feel like mere tremors compared to the earthquake that's coming. This next confrontation promises to be louder, harsher, and infinitely more damaging, especially if Billy's freedom is truly on the line. To him, Victoria's actions won't just seem questionable, they'll feel like an unforgivable betrayal. He'll struggle to reconcile the woman he once knew with the one now standing in front of him, seemingly willing to let him face the consequences alone. The emotional weight of that realization will press down on him, forcing him to confront not just the immediate danger, but the deeper fracture in their relationship. And as his anger rises, so too will the questions that cut straight to the heart of their shared history. What will Victoria tell their children if their father ends up behind bars? And how will she justify the role she played in getting him there? Of course, Victoria won't see it the same way, and that divide will only fuel the conflict further. From her perspective, Billy's entanglement with Phyllis and Kane may be something he brought upon himself. A reckless decision that carries its own consequences. She may argue that she's not responsible for the choices he made, that he knew the risks and walked straight into them anyway. But for Billy, that explanation will fall painfully short, especially as the legal storm gathers strength around him. In his eyes, Victoria and Victor will become intertwined in the same narrative of blame, their actions merging into a single force that threatens to tear his life apart. And as the possibility of prison looms larger, Billy will find himself consumed by 1,000 racing thoughts: fear for his future, anger at those he believes have wronged him, and a growing desperation at the idea of missing out on his child's life before it even begins. As everything spirals toward its inevitable breaking point, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Victoria's choices will not go unanswered. The consequences of her decisions are already rippling outward, setting the stage for a backlash that could change everything. Emotions will collide, loyalties will be tested, and the fragile threads holding these relationships together may finally snap under the pressure. In the end, this isn't just a story about legal trouble or strategic manipulation. It's a deeply human drama about trust, betrayal, and the cost of the choices we make. And as the storm reaches its peak, no one involved will walk away unchanged, especially not Victoria Newman, who is about to face the full force of the fallout she helped create. The fallout doesn't arrive all at once. It builds, slowly and relentlessly, like thunder rolling closer with every passing moment, until Billy Abbott can no longer ignore the reality closing in around him. What once felt like distant speculation now sharpens into something far more immediate, far more dangerous, as whispers of arrests and mounting evidence begin to solidify into undeniable truth. Every move he makes feels watched, every conversation heavy with unspoken fear, and beneath it all, there's a growing sense that the life he's been trying to rebuild is slipping through his fingers. The walls tighten around him, not just legally, but emotionally, as the weight of everything he stands to lose presses down harder than ever before. And through it all, one thought refuses to let him rest: the realization that Victoria may have seen this coming and chosen not to stop it. That knowledge cuts deeper than any accusation, leaving behind a wound fueled by betrayal, confusion, and a rising anger he can barely contain. As the tension reaches its breaking point, the moment Billy has been dreading finally looms into view with brutal clarity. The possibility of being taken into custody is no longer a distant fear, but an impending reality, one that threatens to shatter everything he's fought to hold together. In that fragile space between hope and devastation stands Sally Spectra, her world intertwined with his, her future suddenly uncertain in ways she never imagined. The vision of their life together, of shared mornings, quiet laughter, and the anticipation of their child, begins to fracture under the pressure of what's unfolding. Billy can see it in her eyes, the fear she tries to hide, the silent question of whether the man she believes in will be torn away from her just as their new chapter is beginning. And that's what makes this moment so unbearable, because it's not just his life on the line anymore, it's theirs. The promise he made to Sally, to stand by her through every step of their journey into parenthood, echoes in his mind like a vow he refuses to break, even as circumstances threaten to make it impossible. He had envisioned being present for everything: the milestones, the struggles, the quiet, ordinary moments that define a family. But now, the terrifying possibility of missing it all begins to take shape, filling him with a desperation that borders on panic. It's not just about freedom, it's about time, about connection, about the chance to be the father he's determined to become. And the thought that Victoria's actions may have contributed to putting all of that at risk transforms his anger into something far more volatile. It becomes personal in a way that eclipses logic, driven by the raw emotion of a man who feels his future being stolen piece by piece. When Billy finally confronts Victoria, the air between them crackles with years of history, unresolved pain, and the fragile remnants of what they once shared. There's no softness left in the exchange, no attempt to cushion the blow of what's been done, only sharp words and the kind of emotional intensity that comes from knowing exactly how to hurt one another. Billy's accusations come fast and unfiltered, driven by the belief that Victoria stood by while his life unraveled, that she allowed him to walk straight into a trap without lifting a hand to stop it. For him, it's not just betrayal, it's abandonment, a confirmation that the bond they once had no longer holds any meaning. And when he brings up Johnny Abbott and Katie Abbott, the question lands with devastating force, forcing Victoria to confront the human cost of everything that's happened. What will she tell them if their father is taken away? And how will she explain her role in it? Victoria doesn't back down, but her defense carries its own weight, grounded in a perspective Billy refuses to accept. She insists that he made his own choices, that his involvement with Phyllis Summers and Kane Ashby set this chain of events into motion long before she had any influence over it. In her eyes, this isn't about betrayal, it's about accountability. About a man who once again found himself entangled in something he should have avoided. But even as she speaks, there's an undercurrent of tension that betrays the complexity of her emotions. Because this isn't just a legal matter to her either. It's personal, tangled up in years of love, conflict, and shared responsibility. Still, her resolve remains firm, and that only deepens the divide between them, pushing Billy further into the belief that she and Victor Newman are working, whether intentionally or not, against him. As the legal threat grows more intense, Billy's thoughts spiral into darker territory, consumed by the possibility of losing everything that matters most. The idea of being locked away, separated from his children, from Sally, and from the life he's only just begun to rebuild, becomes an ever-present fear he can't escape. Every second feels heavier, every decision more urgent, as he searches for a way to hold on to the future that's slipping away. And in those moments of quiet desperation, the full weight of the situation settles in. This isn't just a temporary setback, it's a turning point that could redefine everything. The man he becomes in the face of this crisis, the choices he makes, and the battles he chooses to fight will shape not only his fate, but the lives of everyone connected to him. And looming over it all is the undeniable truth that Victoria's role in this unfolding drama will not remain in the shadows. The consequences of her decisions are already beginning to surface, and the backlash she faces will be as intense as the choices that led her here. Relationships will be tested, loyalties pushed to their limits, and the delicate balance of trust that once held these lives together will be stretched to its breaking point. In the end, as the storm finally crashes down, there will be no easy resolutions, no simple path forward, only the aftermath of choices made and the emotional wreckage left behind. And as the dust begins to settle, one question will linger in the air, heavy and unresolved. When everything is stripped away, who will still be standing? And at what cost? In the aftermath of that explosive confrontation, the silence that follows feels almost suffocating, as if the world itself is holding its breath in anticipation of what comes next. Billy Abbott finds himself standing at the edge of everything he's built, staring into an uncertain future that grows darker by the hour. The anger that once burned so fiercely inside him begins to settle into something heavier, more dangerous. A quiet, simmering resolve shaped by fear, heartbreak, and the desperate need to protect what still remains of his life. Every thought circles back to Sally Spectra, to the fragile hope they've been nurturing together, and to the child who now represents everything he cannot afford to lose. But hope, in this moment, feels fragile, overshadowed by the looming threat that at any second everything could be taken away. And as that realization sinks deeper, Billy understands that he's running out of time to change the course of what's been set in motion. Across town, Victoria Newman is left to wrestle with the consequences of her own decisions, though she would never admit it so openly. On the surface, she maintains her composure, projecting the same strength and certainty that has always defined her. But beneath that exterior lies a growing tension she cannot fully suppress. Billy's words linger in her mind, echoing louder in the quiet moments, forcing her to confront the emotional weight of what she's allowed to happen. She tells herself that this is about accountability, that Billy's choices led him here. But the line between justification and guilt becomes harder to see with each passing moment. The image of Johnny Abbott and Katie Abbott inevitably finds its way into her thoughts, their innocent trust casting a long shadow over everything she's done. And though she refuses to let it shake her outward resolve, there's a subtle shift within her, a crack in the armor that suggests even she may not walk away from this unscathed. Meanwhile, the legal storm intensifies, gathering momentum with a force that feels impossible to stop. The manufactured evidence tied to Victor Newman's powerful AI program continues to ripple outward, pulling more lives into its orbit and tightening its grip on those already caught within it. Kane Ashby's situation serves as a chilling preview of what could be waiting for Billy, a stark reminder that this is no longer a game of strategy or influence. It's a battle for freedom. The possibility of arrest hangs over Billy like a shadow he can't outrun, turning every moment into a countdown towards something inevitable. And with each passing second, the pressure mounts, pushing him closer to a breaking point where emotion and instinct may take control over reason. For Sally, the emotional toll becomes almost unbearable as she watches the man she loves teeter on the brink of losing everything. Her dreams, once so vivid and full of promise, begin to feel distant, replaced by a gnawing fear she can't shake. She wants to believe that Billy will find a way through this, that somehow they'll emerge stronger, but doubt creeps in at the edges, threatening to unravel her faith. The thought of raising their child without him, of facing a future defined by absence instead of partnership, is something she can hardly bring herself to imagine. Yet even in the face of that fear, her love for Billy remains steadfast, anchoring her to the hope that this isn't the end of their story. It's that hope that keeps her standing, even as everything around her threatens to collapse. As all these threads converge, the emotional stakes reach a level that can no longer be contained, setting the stage for a reckoning that feels both inevitable and devastating. Billy's fight is no longer just about clearing his name. It's about reclaiming control over his life, his future, and the family he's determined to protect. Victoria, whether she's ready or not, is being pulled into the full force of the consequences she set in motion, her decisions now echoing louder than ever before. And Victor's unseen hand continues to guide the chaos, a reminder that power, when wielded without restraint, leaves destruction in its wake. The lines between right and wrong blur, loyalties fracture, and the cost of every choice becomes painfully clear. And as the story pushes toward its next turning point, one truth stands above all else. No one will emerge from this unchanged. The storm that began as a quiet ripple has grown into something far more destructive, reshaping lives and relationships in ways that can't be undone. In the end, it won't just be about who falls or who survives, but about what's left behind when the dust finally settles. Because in a world where trust can be manipulated and loyalty tested to its limits, the real question isn't just who's to blame. It's who will have the strength to rebuild when everything else has been torn apart. As the pressure reaches an almost unbearable peak, the world around Billy Abbott begins to feel like it's closing in from every direction, each second ticking by with a suffocating sense of inevitability. The threat that once loomed in the distance now stands directly in front of him, impossible to ignore, impossible to outrun, and the reality of what he's facing settles deep into his bones. There's a shift in him now. Less chaos, less scattered anger, and more focus, more clarity. As if the gravity of the situation has forced him to see everything with brutal precision. He knows what's at stake, and more importantly, he knows who he's fighting for. Sally Spectra becomes his anchor in this storm. Her presence a reminder of the life he refuses to let slip away, while the thought of their unborn child ignites a fierce determination that burns brighter than fear. This is no longer just about defending himself. It's about refusing to be erased from the future he's only just begun to believe in. At the same time, the ripple effects of Victor Newman's calculated manipulation continue to spread, touching every corner of this unfolding drama with quiet devastation. The AI-generated evidence, cold, precise, and disturbingly convincing, tightens its grip, leaving little room for doubt in the eyes of the law, even as the truth struggles to find a voice. Kane Ashby's situation grows increasingly dire, serving as a haunting reflection of what Billy could soon endure. And with each development, the sense of urgency intensifies. There's a chilling realization that this isn't just about individuals anymore. It's about a system being weaponized, about power used in ways that leave little room for justice. And as that realization takes hold, the fight becomes even more desperate. Because how do you defend yourself against something designed to make you look undeniably guilty? Victoria Newman, standing at the crossroads of loyalty and consequence, begins to feel the full weight of everything she set in motion pressing down on her with quiet, relentless force. The confidence she once carried starts to waver in subtle ways, her thoughts no longer as clear-cut as she insists they are. Billy's words echo louder now, not as accusations to dismiss, but as truths she can't fully escape. And the emotional cost of her decisions becomes harder to ignore. She tells herself again and again that this is about accountability, that Billy made his own choices, but the image of him potentially losing everything, his freedom, his future, his place in his children's lives, lingers in a way that unsettles her deeply. And when she thinks of Johnny Abbott and Katie Abbott, the weight becomes almost unbearable. Because no matter how she frames it, their lives will be shaped by what happens next. It's in those quiet, unguarded moments that the cracks in her certainty widen, revealing a truth she may not be ready to face. That this isn't just about justice, but about the cost of standing by when it mattered most. For Sally, the emotional storm reaches a breaking point. Her strength tested in ways she never anticipated as the man she loves stands on the brink of being torn away from her. Every conversation feels heavier now, every glance between them carrying the unspoken fear of what could happen next. She tries to hold on to hope, to believe that somehow this will turn around, but the reality pressing in around them makes that hope harder to grasp. Still, she doesn't let go, because her love for Billy isn't fragile. It's fierce, rooted in everything they've been through and everything they still dream of becoming. The thought of raising their child without him, of facing a future marked by absence instead of partnership, fuels a quiet resilience within her, a determination to stand by him no matter what comes. And in that shared determination, there's a fleeting sense of unity, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, they are not alone. As the story hurtles toward its next turning point, the emotional and legal stakes collide with unstoppable force, setting the stage for a reckoning that feels both inevitable and deeply personal. Billy stands ready to fight, not just against the charges looming over him, but against the narrative being written in his name, a narrative he refuses to accept as his truth. Victoria, whether she admits it or not, finds herself caught in the aftermath of her own choices, the consequences no longer distant but immediate and undeniable. And Victor's shadow stretches over it all, a silent architect of chaos whose influence continues to shape the outcome in ways no one can fully control. The tension builds to a crescendo, each thread of the story pulling tighter, each character pushed to their emotional limits. And just as it feels like everything is about to collapse under the weight of it all, a new question begins to rise from the wreckage, one that shifts the narrative in an unexpected way. What if the truth, buried beneath layers of manipulation and deception, hasn't been silenced after all? What if there's still a chance to expose what's been done, to unravel the carefully constructed illusion before it's too late? It's a fragile possibility, barely more than a spark. But in a moment like this, even the smallest spark can ignite something powerful. Because when everything else has been stripped away, when trust has been broken and futures hang in the balance, sometimes the only thing left to hold on to is the belief that the truth, no matter how deeply hidden, still has the power to set everything right.